Okay.
It says happening now. Okay. It says happening. So it's on, because if you can hear me on your devices, it is on. So we want to, I see it. See, it looks like this, guys. You don't see it yet? And people, we are recording at the moment, and people are joining on. And I do want to welcome you to the Still Here Virtual Summit. As you join us tonight, we want to encourage you to say hello. Hello, Rhonda Taylor. Hello. We want to encourage you to say hello and to also share the broadcast. We have an amazing subject tonight with some amazing people, and we want as many people as possible to be here, to be able to take advantage of this. Hello, Nellie. Nellie is saying, good evening, all. We are so grateful, Nellie, that you are here tonight, and we want you to join us in sharing this page tonight, because we are going to talk about some things that we believe. Hello, Rhonda Taylor. Hello. We want to encourage you to say hello and to also share. So we know that everyone has found it now, right? Okay. So what we want you to do as you're coming in, we want you to say hello, and we also want you to take a moment to share the broadcast. So I am going to unmute my guests so that they can say hello to you and turn down the volume on their devices. And because I see some people shouting out, Linda. So Linda, you want to say hello to those who are
Hi,
here?
Everyone. We're still here.
Yes, we
Hi,
are.
Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Nellie. Hi, Elise. Hi, Elise.
Yes. So please take a moment to share the broadcast, and as we do that, we will get this party started, because tonight is going to be a party that is going to elevate us in our thinking and in our mindset. Hi, Grace. Please share the broadcast. Let others know that we are here.
Yes.
So we're just taking time to do that. Sharing it tonight. And for any reason, if you have difficulties on Facebook listening to the broadcast tonight, you can go on YouTube. We are on YouTube tonight, and we are on Facebook. If you go to YouTube and you look for my page, Marcella D. Moore, you will be able to see the broadcast tonight. So we are here, ready for you all. Asking that again, that you take a moment to say hello and let us know that you are here, and to please share the broadcast. And I'm getting all of these. Okay. So people are coming in, and we so appreciate you all. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Okay. So Linda, you're writing in the wrong, you're writing in the private chat. You have to write in the comments for the guests to be able to see the comments. Do you see the difference there?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
Yes, I can't write in there. It's not giving me the option to write.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
Welcome, Miss Lamore.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. I wonder why it's not letting you type there.
Okay. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't give us that option.
That is so strange, because they were able to do it last night, and then okay. Nevertheless, we are going to keep it moving tonight. See, Tracy was able to, Dr. Tracy was able to put some there. Hey, Tracy Cole, thank you for tonight. So as you all come on, we just want you to take a moment to share the broadcast tonight. Again, if you find that you have any difficulties tonight watching us on Facebook, feel free to jump on over to YouTube. And on YouTube, you can look for Marcella D. Moore, and the broadcast is live there. So we're just taking a moment to share the broadcast and waiting for a few people to come on in the room, to come in the house tonight, because we have some information that is really going to empower you during this current pandemic. We're in a space and a place where we have never been before. And I tell you, we've learned on Monday night, we talked about our spiritual self, the importance of building ourselves up spiritually, connecting to God in this time. Then last night we talked about our business self. Our business self was simply for those of us who have businesses, encouraging us to continue to move forward, even though it seems like things are trying and challenging. And we talked about different ways that you can be creative to move in your business, although you can't do it like you used to do it before. And we also spoke to those of you who are at home right now, encouraging you to take advantage of this time and to tap into those resources and those gifts and those passions and different things that you have in order to be effective in the earth. So what we're going to do at this time, we've shared it, we've greeted you, and we are going to go ahead and get started tonight. I am Marcella D. Moore, and I welcome you to the Still Here Virtual Summit. We've been together Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and tonight we are wrapping up this thing. And although we are wrapping this up tonight, we want you to remember, even after you leave this broadcast tonight, we want you to remember the word still here. Because although things are challenging at this time, the fact that we are still here, the fact that you opened your eyes this morning, that lets us know, that lets me know that there is still something for you to do. So tonight, our focus, our thought process tonight is my mental health. I want you all to type that in the comments. Type my mental health, my mental health. We talked about my spiritual self. We talked about my business self. Well, tonight is all about my mental health. And tonight we have experts who are here. They are coaches, they are social workers, they are therapists, and they are going to talk to you and they're going to give you some nuggets that will empower you so that you can make it during this time. I know for many of us, we wake up every day and it is challenging. You're looking at the news all the time. You're hearing about all of the deaths. I got to the point on Facebook, you keep typing my sincere prayers and condolences, my sincere prayers and condolences, my sincere prayers and condolences, because you have a heart for those who have lost loved ones during this time. But on the other side of that, I believe in the Most High God, the true and living God, and I believe that He gives us an ability, if we stay connected to Him, to make it through this, as this earth is. And I look at it as the world is in a space where it's simply trying to breathe again. You know, just trying to breathe again. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead. Tonight, we have Linda Raoul with us. We have Joseph Spencer with us. We have Brittany Jean Lewis with us. And we have Dr. Tracy Powell. And they're going to come in their own way. They're going to share with you. And even after they share, it's going to be a back-to-back. The thing one finishes, the next one is going to come up. They're just going to go back-to-back tonight. And then once they finish empowering you with their presentations, we are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. And we want you to ask the questions. We're here tonight, not just because we didn't have anything to do or we just want to gather together to talk, but we wanted to be here tonight to be effective. So we want you to ask questions, any questions that you may have. And while this is not, this is a resource. This is not in place of you making time to speak to a professional in terms of your situations, but this is a resource where you can come together to get some nuggets that will help hopefully point you in the direction of making time to get the mental health help that you need. We have not life insurance, we have health insurance, and many people don't realize that their health insurance pays for them to be able to go and talk with somebody. So we hope that what we share with you tonight will encourage you to do so. We are not ashamed of the fact that we need mental health help. It's been a taboo in our culture for a long time, and we would deny the fact that we would need help. We would suppress things and wouldn't do what was necessary so that we can be better. But tonight is about us being better. Tonight is about us getting healthier. Tonight is about us being able to manage our lives in this current pandemic. So at this time, again, we're asking that as you come on, say hello and take a moment to share this broadcast. And our first expert tonight. Our first guest tonight is Joseph Spencer, and he is going to come to you and share from the heart and give you some nuggets that will empower you on this journey. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Marcella, and it's totally an honor for me to be part of this panel. I'm probably not worthy, but I totally appreciate you having me here and to be surrounded by such greatness. I wanted to just talk about my situation because I think it's important when we're talking about this pandemic and what's going on and how it's affecting people's mental health. It's like Marcella said, I think it's important to talk, from the heart. I'm a caseworker. I work for the state of New Jersey, and I believe it was around the middle of March last month, we got an email and we were told that once we left on this particular day, not to come back to the office for 30 days. So that was kind of weird because of the type of work that I do. It's essential. So it was kind of weird. And they gave us options in terms of if we wanted to be volunteers and go out in the field and expose ourselves to the virus. And, I said to myself, I have a family to think about. So basically what happened was we're working from home and it became a new world. And what happened for me was I had to figure out, how am I going to manage in this situation, right? And it's been a month now, and it's been a challenge because my room has become my office. We're not allowed to have contact with our clients. Everything is remote. Everything is from home. And it's become a challenge. We have to do what we call phone and video chat with clients on an ongoing basis. So I'm saying all that to say that it did affect me, and it has affected me, and it still affects me, right? And it doesn't matter who you are, right? Everybody's impacted in some type of way. There are people out here with no jobs. So I'm grateful for that. So one of the things that I do is I have a program called the Blueprint for Success. And I operate off these things called what they call the 7 frames. And the 7 frames, what they do for me, they help me stay sane. It helps me keep life in perspective. Helps me stay in my, what I call my square, so I don't kind of go off, right? Because we do venture off a little bit at times, right? But you have to be able to get back on track. And some people say, get on your horse. So I'm gonna tell you what I do to stay on my horse, get on my horse when I fall, like what I do. So the 7 frames, right? The first one is called taking responsibility. So each person has to ask themselves, well, what does that mean? Take responsibility for where you are. I had to first take responsibility that I was no longer getting up, going to my 9 to 5, that I would have to get up in the morning and pretend that I was at my office, that I was going somewhere. I had to get up, I had to get dressed, I had to do all these things, right? So part of taking responsibility is trying to figure out ways how to manage in that. I didn't necessarily have a computer at home that I needed to be able to access what I needed. So I started trying to figure out some things, and I just said, this is kind of weird, but I had to actually go to my office and get my desktop and bring it home so I can be able to access the system in a way that made sense for me, to where it wasn't driving me insane, because there's so many technical issues that other workers are having using their own personal laptops in terms of remote access, right? So I took that responsibility, right? And ever since that I made a decision to do that, life has improved for me in terms of how I process myself at home, which is now work, right? So my home is now my office. So what I do is I actually just mentally take myself to a place where once I set up at my desk, I program myself and I just say, hey, you're at work. And I spend probably a good 3 or 4 hours in the room. I'll get my coffee. I do my same routine, right? Because what was important for me is, how do I stay sane? How do I keep myself on track? How do I make this work, for me, for the people that I'm responsible for at home, for my professional, my clients. How do I make that work? So the first thing you got to do is take responsibility for where you are. Once you do that, your brain will start crystallizing. You'll start figuring things out, which is what I did. So the second thing was I had to clarify what did I want out of the situation? What did I need to happen? Right. So I already know my job. So when you clarify what you want, right, you got to look at, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis, right? This is what I need to accomplish. I still need to continue that same routine, right? For some people, you're probably not at work, because I know there's a bunch of people that lost their jobs, right? So it's important, right, to really understand and try to conceptualize what these frames mean and what they do, because they really help steer me, right? So you clarify, right? You take responsibility, then you clarify, right? Then you start this process of getting organized, right? So what I do is every day before I start my day, I do something simple. I write down what I want to accomplish. It's very important that you have an intention every day, whether you're at work or whether you're not. You have to come up with some type of system, right? You have to organize yourself, whether it's activities with the kids or whatever the case may be. You got to write it down. Why? What's the significance of writing? When we write, the actual movement of our hands and writing on paper, right, it connects to our brains, right? And it's an energy, right? And it crystallizes your thinking, and it helps you with programming yourself, because it's that reassurance that, okay, I can see it, now I can accomplish it, right? So that's the third thing that I do, right? So what do you do when you start going off track, right? Because we're going to go off track. So there's times I sit there and nothing's getting done. I'm kind of like getting lost out there. And I'm like, whoa, man, how do I pull myself back in? So I start processing what my thoughts are. And then I start figuring out ways how to get rid of those negatives, right, that are serving me no purpose. So we call that cleaning up cleaning up these thoughts and these processes that's going on in your mind. You have to be able to manage that. And I don't think people really understand how important that little detail is, because all of us, our minds, we're constantly thinking, and there's different thoughts shooting through our minds all the time. You have to figure out how to manage that and to get rid of that, so it's not affecting and impacting you, right, in a way that's not healthy, right? So you got to clean up those thoughts, right? So what do you do next? You got to start programming. So that goes back to the writing, right? I program myself and I condition myself, and I say, hey, now that I've accomplished that, this is what it is. And I become kind of like a robot in that sense, where I actually leave where I don't feel like I'm at home. I talk with my family and I tell them, like, this is what's going on for me on this day. So this is what I need for them to do, because my daughter's home, she's doing her schoolwork. So we have a system in place where she has her work area, I have my work area, and we don't violate that, because, we have to accomplish what we need to accomplish. So that is important, coming up with that type of schedule, right? Why is this important? Because it keeps you in alignment with what you need to accomplish, which is very important, right? So, and then this is how you get in alignment with your thoughts, because now it's written down. You already know what you want to do. So now you can connect your mind, your heart, your energy, and everything, right? And it all kind of comes together, right? And some of this may sound funny to people, because this is something I had learned on my own years ago. I started reading different books, and I started saying, wow, what do successful people do? And this is one of the main things that successful people do. They follow these frames, right? And then the last frame is kind of just playing it out. What does that mean? It means that you've come up with your plan. You know what you need to accomplish on a daily basis. You know what your goals are. You're now in alignment with them. And now you're just carrying it out. Right? So I'm a 9-to-5 guy. So I sit there and I make sure that I'm producing. I make sure that I'm doing those things, right, that's going to keep me employed, right? And I'm going to keep accomplishing what I need to accomplish, but it's also going to make me feel like I'm not stressed out. And it's been about a month now, and I've just gotten to the point this week where I haven't been stressed out, because now I'm kind of at that stage where I'm in alignment and I know what I got to do every day. I have a plan, I have a system, how I'm attack each and everything that I need to do. Right. So for those of you, right, that are not working, right, it's important that you also understand those concepts, but it's also important that there's 5 major areas in all of our lives, right? So there's career, right? You have your career, which is one of the main things that we're talking about, because that's what's impacting a lot of people, they're having or lack of, right? Then there's your relationships, right? That's all being challenged. I've been hearing that there's an increase in divorce rate now, that people are like fighting and all this other stuff that's going on, right? And then you have what we call your health and your fitness, right? People are not able to go to the gym. People are not able to like go and eat at their favorite salad places and things like that. Like all lives have been altered, like to a degree that like nobody knows what we're doing anymore. It's like the whole country is on house arrest, right? Then you have what we call personal growth. That's that stuff, the time where you take time out for yourself, right? Personal growth is independent of everybody else. It's those things, it's those values, right, that you got to focus on every day. And I always say you take about 15 to 20 minutes for yourself to focus on those things, because if you don't, right, there's a verse, it says, to thine own self be true, right? That's where that personal growth comes into play at. You have to have a plan in place for yourself, right? You can't be that kind of person where you're constantly going for others. You're everything to everybody else and nothing to yourself, right? That's the recipe for disaster and will drive you crazy. And then, you have what we call spiritual, right? Some people refer to it as religion. I like to say spiritual because people believe different things, right? So those are the 5 major areas, right? And why am I talking about that? Personal growth, religion, spiritual, health and fitness, career, right? Why am I mentioning those things? Because those 5 major areas are the things that our lives revolve around every day. So as it relates to those frames, you have to know what you want out of each of those areas in order for you to be able to manage on what I call a super level, right? If you really want to peak and you want to overcome personal obstacles, things that are clouding your mind, you have to become in alignment, right, with what it is you want in those areas. Because if you don't take the time to do that, and that's one of the, you got to look for the blessings in this situation, because now we're being still. You're spending more time being still. So this is the time to do personal reflection. This is the time for you to talk to yourself, to talk to your spouses, to talk to the people that you're in relationships with, your children, and to really cultivate these things and incorporate those people that's in your life into that picture. Because a lot of us, we're caught up in what we call our work. We identify as that. One of the things I notice in a lot of professional fields, like I deal with judges all the time, and they operate different, where they kind of alienate themselves, they distance themselves, where they feel like they're not regular people, right? Doctors, they'll say, oh, call me doctor, versus call me Tony or call me Mary or call me whatever, right? We have to be careful, right, how we see ourselves and how we're carrying that stuff out, because these things, right, you're either going to be able to create balance, or you're going to have what we call a disaster. And I'm on social media every day. I have a business, and I'm seeing people spiraling, like their behavior's kind of altered a little bit. People are posting more, and that stuff kind of keeps you away from being able to focus on these areas, your relationships, your personal self. So what I'm advising people to do is, you have to spend time to work on your personal self, your personal relationships, your personal growth, your health and your fitness, right? Your career, right? Think about what you do, if you're still working, if you're not working, if this is the thing for you. And if it is, if it's not, then look at some other options, You have to come up with a plan. You have to have a blueprint. If you do not have a blueprint for your own personal self, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer. And life is going to be kind of hard for you to manage. And some of us get caught up in what I call the rat race, where we become robots. We get up, we shower, we have the same routine, right? And routine is good, but also some routines are not healthy because you become your routine versus who you really want to be. So when you start focusing on having a blueprint and you start focusing on those 5 major areas in your life, it's going to help you to become whole and complete. That is very important. Many people are running around here, they're not whole and they're not complete, right? So in order to accomplish that, you need to work on those areas and create values for yourself and ask yourself in detail to yourself what it is that I want from those areas. And that's one of the things that I do. That's what guides me. And that's how I'm able to manage myself and my mental health. Because it doesn't matter whether you're a mental health professional or not. We're human and we're all impacted by this virus. And people are afraid of each other. When I go out, I see people, they don't want to talk to each other. People are running from each other. You see people, we don't know how to interact with them. Our lives have been completely altered, and it can be saddening. It can be depressing. And I know depression has increased like quadruple out here, which is even more reason why you need to really sit down and come up with what I call a blueprint for success, because you can really go into a rut. And to neglect your mental health, it could take you somewhere where it could be very hard for you to recover. I've been in this field since 1994, and I work with youth and adults, and I've seen the success and I've seen the people that struggle and still struggling years later, whether it's substance use, whether it's serious psychiatric issues that they're unable to overcome, even with the support of psychotropic meds. So I think it's important during this time that we really sit down and think about those 5 areas and what values we need to create in those areas for ourselves, right? And to think about the most important frame to me is taking responsibility for where you are. Because if you never take responsibility for where you are, right? If you never do that, how can you even get on track to start to improve your life and to work on those other areas? You have to first take responsibility. And if you're going through something, it's like Marcella said, you need to reach out to those professionals, right? Those resources that you have, right? To get the appropriate help that you need. Let's not freestyle out here on our mental health. That's one of the worst things you can do is freestyle on your mental health. You have to stay on top of it. It's a constant battle, and we don't really know what to do in this pandemic because this is new to us. And you can look in history where it's happened in other periods and centuries ago and stuff like that, where we had the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s, but the country overcame it. So focus on positive outcomes, right? Make sure that your thinking is healthy and you focus on those things, right? That feed your soul, your heart, your mind, your energy positive, right? Because you want to have positive outcomes. You don't want to sit around looking at the news all day, becoming depressed, and the constant change of information. Information changes every day on social media and the news, and that's impacting us more, I think, more than anything. And from this pandemic, it's going to be in a mental health profession, it's going to create a different diagnosis probably at some point, where they're going to have to go back to the DSM-4, and really kind of reevaluate how they're assessing people and evaluating people, because this pandemic is going to create a lot of mental health nightmares. How do we go back to trusting each other? Because we don't. Scared to go over people's homes, and rightfully so. So how are you going to overcome those fears? How are you going to overcome those worries? How do you overcome that? right? And the depression that it's causing. So my advice is to make sure that if you are struggling, you're getting sad and things like that, reach out to a professional or somebody and to talk about it, right? So you can get it off your chest, right? And it can start to, you can start to work on those areas, right? And get the help that you need. Because if you allow it to resonate and it's sitting you and you don't do anything about it, right? You don't release it, and you don't do anything to address it, it's going to eat you up. It's going to eat you up. And we definitely don't want you guys, anybody we know going through that type of thing. So, that's pretty much in a nutshell how I manage my day to day. I operate off those 7 frames and those 5 major areas. I make sure that I'm feeding and I'm addressing each of those 5 major areas on a daily basis. It's not something you take a break from. You can't take a break from your life, right? It's something that you have to work on every day, right? And that's how you can accomplish, right, and overcome and fight through, this pandemic that we're all fighting through together, and the power is in numbers. So if you have resources, you have people in your lives or a professional that you can reach out to, and you don't do it, you're doing yourself a disservice. We have a great panel of people, and I'm sure that you can find some help and people can point you in the right direction if you are struggling or continuing to struggle and you need help with information on resources and just some skills, some simple skills just to manage out of it, and pretty much that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So
Wow, Joseph, that was amazing. You are definitely right. And I think I'm going to take that. I cannot freestyle on my mental health. You're absolutely right. Before I start off, I definitely want to thank Marcella for creating this platform because it is much needed. Thank you and for giving me the privilege to share my heart and share my experiences with everyone. Although we are going through a collective traumatic experience, we're dealing with it at the very same time. Everyone is dealing with it in different ways. It's, the experiences that we're experiencing is very different depending on what support systems you have in place, how you cope with stress, if you had a prior mental health issue. For me, my experience has been very, very unique. And I feel that as a Christian, as a believer, God operates in seasons. He works in seasons. And he's definitely sharing some things and teaching me some things during this season of my life. I know back in March when everything started coming about and we had a meeting, we were having meetings every single day. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work at a school. So every single day at 1:00, we were having a meeting and we were just planning, Lord forbid if school was to shut down, this is how we're going to move forward to make sure that we provide treatment because we're still essential workers. So that happened, school shut down. And I remember a conversation that I had with one of my good friends. And as I'm talking to her, I'm driving to go meet another client because I do in-home therapy as well. And we were talking about the pandemic and what's going on. And I just told her, I have so much peace. Like, God is in control. This doesn't bother me. I'm not worried. And I was just like in a super good place. And I was just like, you know what? God got this. Like he's showed up before, he's going to show up again. This happened in the Bible days. And she's just quiet on the phone, just listening to me. So we hang up and I go to see my client. I go into their home. And when I come out, I check my phone. And I saw something on CNN, on NJ12 News that had said there were 6 family members that were fighting COVID and the 3rd family member had passed away. That just shifted my spirit. I stood there in the car and I just began to cry. And I just remember saying, God, this is for real, for real. Like people are really dying. It's real out here. And I'm having a conversation with God. And I just start to think like, okay, what do I go get for my parents? I live alone. My parents are older, and I wanted to make sure that they were okay. My mom works in the healthcare field, and she has pre-existing conditions. So I just started to spiral. My thoughts was everywhere. Like, oh my God, I gotta go get some elderberry. I have to hit up my friend who knows things about natural remedies. What can I get? I gotta go get vitamin C. And I'm just sitting here just worrying. And in that moment, as tears are streaming down my face, I just stopped. Like, Linda, what are you doing? What are you doing? I thought you said God had this. And in that moment, it became so real that I needed to make a choice. I needed to make a choice on how I would let this affect me, what I have control of and what I do not have control of. It's true. We're facing so many uncertainties, and as things are going on around us, we're going to start to feel it on the inside, and that's okay. But one thing for sure, I know the God that I serve, he is so certain. So this right here don't face him. So I had to really dig into my skills and see how I can apply that in my day-to-day living. And I am going to just share a little bit with you of what I've been doing that's been helping me stay sane. The first thing, I had to be intentional about where my focus will go. I had to be intentional about my focus. What's your threshold, Linda? I can't sit there and watch CNN News and watch Kumo and Murphy talk all day, every day. My emotional self is not set up like that. So I have to know what I can and cannot handle. So if I choose to focus on CNN and the news, then what am I going to expect? Of course, I am going to feel upset. I'm going to feel anxiety. I'm going to feel worry. I'm going to feel sad. It's only right because that's what I'm meditating on. But I choose to focus on God. Because when I focus on God and when I focus on his promises and what he says to us, it reminds me that I have to be still. And although I don't understand everything, that peace will still be mine. So when I choose to focus on God, worry goes away, fear starts to go away, and I could be reminded of this is only a season and this too shall pass. That has really been keeping me. And I just feel like my relationship with God has just been like up here because I'm trusting God more. And I'm just trusting him with everything around me, with this pandemic, with, just the emotions that I'm feeling, with being overwhelmed by work, because as we're dealing with this, I still have to call in my students every single day. I still have to provide therapy. When I'm calling, the parents are getting on the phone. Ms. Linda, I don't understand this work. So it's stressful for all of us because we're playing different roles. We're in different settings. We have never been through COVID-19. So we're all dealing with it at the same time. But one thing I know, I choose to focus on what I can control. What I can't control, I can't do anything about it. So I'm focusing on those things that I can control. And number one, being intentional about my focus. Number two, because another thing is when I was reminded when Peter was in a boat, right? And he got off the boat and he was walking on water. He was good until he heard the wind and saw the wind, and then fear and doubt and all of this stuff started to creep in. So when I stay focused on God, I can manage those things. And it doesn't seem as uncertain anymore because I know where I'm focusing on. Number two, I had to grab hold of my thoughts and really hold them captive and make them obedient to God. Because as I think, I become. In the mental health world, we say, as we think, we start to feel, and that's how we respond. So I need to make sure that I am holding true to what I'm thinking. And if it's something that does not align to the feeling that I want to feel or what God says, I need to release it because it's not doing me any good. So grabbing hold of that thought, changing my narrative, changing my language. Yes, I may experience anxiety. I have anxiety, but anxiety does not have me. When I choose to look at it that way, that I have anxiety, it makes me feel like I'm boss. I'm in control. I can manage these symptoms. But when I say anxiety got me, I'm giving up. I'm not fighting no more. So for all of us who might be going through stress, who might be going through fear, who might even be, infected with the virus, COVID does not have you. You have COVID and you can still choose to fight because you are still here. There is still a fight in you. You're still here for a purpose, with a purpose. There's a charge on your life to fight harder than before, to fill up your arsenal and really fight and protect your mental health, because we need that to continue. The third thing I focused on and I've been utilizing is leaning on my village. It is so important to be able to connect with people who you can trust, people who you can be vulnerable with, who you can be who you can be transparent with without judgment. You go to these people and they're just here, they're listening. They're here to catch every tear. They're here to hold you accountable. For me, on a day-to-day basis, I get up and I am creating a safe space for my clients. Once I hang up the phone and I transition into Linda's life, I need to create my safe space so I can replenish myself and bring it tomorrow so my clients won't feel that energy. Imagine going through all of this and you're not leaning on no one. Healing does not happen in isolation. We don't get healed when we're isolated. We get healed by sharing our stories. There's so much power in our stories. There's so much power in sharing our truth. So when we don't feel good, and it's okay not to be okay, when we don't feel good, leaning on someone and letting them hear you, letting them validate you, and giving you the energy so you could continue on with your journey. That has been really key for me. And I have some dope sisters who, even when I can't pray, and they'll say, Linda, I got you. Or remember this word, remember what God said, you're in this season for a reason. And this is what these people will do when you create a village, a sisterhood of people who genuinely care about you and they want to see you come out. Because at the end of the day, this is a collective experience and we're going through it together. So hold each other's hands, be an ear to someone, and just help somebody through this journey. Number 4, another thing that has helped me is God has really been teaching me this, because I have such a big heart and I'm able to show grace to everybody else, but I'm quick to judge myself. So God has been showing me to be grateful to yourself. Show yourself grace. The same grace that you freely give everybody else. Show yourself that kind of grace. Be kind to yourself. Be patient. Be mindful. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel anxiety. It's okay to feel. Be mindful of what you feel, how it's affecting your body. Be mindful of your triggers. What triggers you, what gets you to this place. Because if you don't know what gets you to this place of being overwhelmed and anxious, you're not going to know how to bring yourself back down and to remain calm. You have to know what your triggers are. So showing yourself grace, not judging your journey, embracing every single bit of your journey. Just because you have a meltdown today does not mean that the day has to be bad. Have your meltdown, pick yourself back up, and continue on, because you are still here. Life still goes on, and we still have to continue fighting. Another thing, I've been just practicing gratitude. In the midst of everything negative going on, what is God doing for me? What should I be grateful for? If I look around, there's so many things that just being alive, waking up in the morning, I'm grateful. I'm able to call my mom, I'm grateful. I'm able to, get up, get in a shower. I have a job. That's enough to be grateful about. We cannot get caught up in all the negativity going on that we forget gratefulness. And when we start to practice gratefulness and gratitude, it changes our mood. It does something for us. If you feel bad about something or overwhelmed, be a light to somebody else. I guarantee you, your mood will change. Your anxiety will go when you give somebody else hope. Do that. You're still here. There's something that you can do. Another thing that I feel that is very important, and Brother Joseph touched on that, is the importance of routine. We have to get up and go to work, right? You might work at home now remotely, or you might still have to go out. Some of us may not have a job, but you still need to create a routine. A routine is very important because it allows you not to feel overwhelmed. When, for example, when your house is a mess and there's a lot of clutter, your mind is overwhelmed. There's connection with that to that. So when you walk into a place and it smells good and it look good, you feel so at ease and so at peace. So create a routine, set yourself up so you can have a productive day to continue your journey. Lastly, I just want to touch base on something that is very dear to me. I call it my reset plan. It's sort of like a safety plan. In the mental health field, when someone has suicidal thoughts, but they're able to contract for safety, we come up with a safety plan. It's like a tool that they can use when they're experiencing those feelings and those thoughts. So for me, I have a reset plan. I come up with these ideas. So when I'm starting to feel anxiety, or when I'm starting to feel like, my thoughts are spiraling out of control, because trust me, those thoughts spiral, but we have to grab them captive and make them obedient to God. So once I feel that I'm starting to spiral, I have this toolbox, my reset plan, that I can reach in and make sure that I get myself back to a place of calm. So number one, and on my reset plan, is prayer. If I feel that my feelings, I don't understand what's going on, I was here and all of a sudden I'm here, I will take out my prayer journal and I just go before God, like, yo, God, I don't understand what's going on. This is how I'm feeling. And 9 out of 10 times after I'm done writing, I know what my triggers are. I feel so much lighter because I dumped everything out. For some of you who do not like journaling, there's something else that's called brain dump. And it is amazing. I swear, and I live by brain dumping. Imagine taking your purse, right? And for us ladies, we have a lot of things in our purse. Imagine taking your purse and dumping everything, the content that's in your purse, dumping it on a table. Your purse feels so much lighter. And that's the same thing when you brain dump. You pull out a piece of paper and you just write. There's no order, there's no way to do it, but you get everything out on paper so you could feel so much lighter. Worship music changes the atmosphere for me. It just makes me forget. It's like a distraction technique. It makes me forget how I'm feeling and I focus on something bigger than me. I'm calling someone. I'm telling you, accountability. There's been nights like last week I had a moment and I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling something. There's no one in the house with me. I live alone. And I started to think, why am I single, God? That's not fair. And I just started to write. I called on a friend and she's like, Linda, remember this season, there's a reason for it. You're good. You're where you need to be. And just hearing that person's voice saying that this is your season, and she's reminded me of that, I was able to snap out of that and grab a hold of myself. The next thing, I like to light candles. I done went through all of my candles from just being home. Lighting candles, there's a scent, like for example, lavender, the calming scents like eucalyptus, vanilla. It triggers something in your brain to let you know that you are here and you are safe, and it signifies calm. So if you want to set the atmosphere and set your environment to make sure, you could take a deep breath and inhale peace, put some lavender oil on. Take a deep breath with that. Light a candle that smells good. So every time you smell that scent, it reminds you that you are calm, you are safe, and you're okay. During the morning time, I get up, put a diffuser on, and I put orange or lemongrass or grapefruit. Those scents are more, it signifies energy. So it sets the tone for where I want to be, and I want to be productive that day. So my mind, it already registered that you're happy, you're doing this, and it gets me in a place where I'm ready to work and I'm just ready to go. Last but not least, I would say develop a healthy sleep hygiene. Prior to COVID, I was very busy, right? I don't have time for TV. I don't really have time for nothing. But now that I'm home, I'm catching up on all my shows. And I'm staying up to like 12 p.m., 1 a.m., 12 a.m. And that does something, because when you're not sleeping and you're not getting adequate amount of rest, you're not productive the next day. You're more irritable. You might be more emotional the next day. So creating a sleep routine, for me, 10 p.m., my phone goes on do not disturb. I cannot receive incoming calls. I may put my phone away and start to read a book or read my Bible, but that just sets the tone and reminds me that I'm about to enter a state of rest. So I hope these tools and these skills, you can find at least one thing that you can use. And I'm really cheering you on because we are still here. We are in this together. Replenish yourself. Always remember that emotional health and mental health is also part of good self-care practice. So take care of your mental.
Wow, thank you so much, Linda. That was awesome. I wrote so many exciting notes down from both you and Joseph, and it's just so powerful and so much energy here. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Tracy McPowell. I am excited to be here. Special thanks to Marcella for allowing me to be on this platform today and to connect and talk with all of you. I've been in the comments, and I love the comments and love the likes. Please continue to write comments. Please continue to remind yourself that you're still here. As Joseph and Linda said, we have to write things down. So let's write in the comments right now that we are still here in the midst of COVID-19. We are still here, and that is something that we are greatly thankful for. Tonight, I want to share my experience with COVID-19. I was a first responder. When I said first responder, I meant that. In early February, I got an email said I needed to respond. I was deploying for COVID-19. The email said, you are deploying. It also had my plane ticket, which gave me 48 hours to get ready. Yes, 2 days to get ready. Of course, with that, I had so much anxiety. I had so much stress. We didn't know what COVID was. Nothing was really happening. We're seeing these bits and pieces on the news in early February, but I knew because I got this email that something big was happening. And I needed to be on the front lines to protect not only my community, but the American people. So what did I do? I stepped up to that charge. Did I step up without anxiety? No. Did I step up without fear? No. But I realized I have to step up. But in order to do so, I have to get myself together in 48 hours before I board this plane. So my recovery happened in several phases. First, going. In 48 hours, I had to get my house together, figure out what was going to happen with my parents. Will I be back? Where will I be back? Who's going to take care of my plants? I live alone. What am I going to do? I had all these thoughts going through my mind, but I also knew I have to go and serve on the front line. I reached out to a therapist of mine because I'm not only a talker about mental health, I believe in mental health. What does that mean? I have at least 3 therapists in my phone that I can call at any given time. If I need help, if I need someone to process things with, I can call. So in the Uber on the way to the airport, I am calling one of my therapists saying, look, this is what's going on. I'm on my way. I have to go. I know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm facing. They're telling me that I'm in charge. In charge of what? In charge of who? I don't know. We don't have any information. Yes, I am a scientist at heart. But even as a scientist, I was afraid. Even as a scientist, I felt fear and anxiety because I am human. Even as a first responder, we're human. We're people that experience the same fears and anxieties that you all face. We just display it in a different way. We mask it very well to make you feel comfortable. So as you look in the chat and as you're writing, if you felt fear and anxiety anytime during this, you write that, write fear, write the word fear, write the word anxiety in the chat so that you can get that out. You can express that. There is nothing wrong with fear and anxiety. It's actually very, very healthy. It's an emotion that we all have at some point in our lives, but we try to hide it. Joseph talked about that. Linda mentioned that. We try to be better than it. We don't want anyone to see it, but I wasn't in this place. I had to be better before I got to my destination. So I had to work through all of these emotions before I got there. When I arrived at my destination, everybody's waiting on Dr. Powell to come with this great plan. And when I arrived, they said, Dr. Powell, we're here for you. We're ready. And I'm saying, okay, I'm ready because I'm a leader. I'm in charge. I'm there to take charge. I'm there to disseminate a plan. I'm there to make sure that everyone is safe. At this point, I'm deployed to an airport. So I'm saying to myself, we have passengers coming from all over the world in the United States. I don't know what they're bringing. I don't know what they're taking, but we have to protect them on the front line. I get with my team still in fear, still in anxiety, but I'm standing strong as his leader. And I say, this is our plan. Our plan is safety first. Our plan is let's talk about how we're feeling in this moment. Let's get out the fear. Let's get out the anxiety. Let's get out the hopelessness. And let's lay it all on the table. And we did that. People talked about family members back home. People talked about whether or not they can go back to their kids. People talked about whether we are affected if we get the virus because we're truly exposed. But we have to get it out. As you work on the front line, you have to share these experiences. And that's what we did. After we shared the experiences, we came up with a plan. Our plan was not to not feel fear or anxiety. Our plan was to do our job, but have a check-in at the beginning of the day and a check-in at the end of the day. So we will know how we're feeling. We will know how everyone is. We would not only know about ourselves, but our families, our communities, and what is going on around us. Because when you're out on the front line, you're in go-go mode. I went from a person that wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do my morning prayer. I'm in the bed by 8 or 9 o'clock. I get there and they're saying, okay, you're on the second shift. The second shift was from 2:30 p.m. to 4 o'clock a.m. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God. So when Lisa says, get your rest, I can relate to that because I'm going through an adjustment. I can't sleep all day. I can't sleep all night. So I have to find a balance. That caused me more stress. That caused me more anxiety. So I got to the place where I was feeling, okay, I'm not sleeping. I'm up. I get back to my hotel at 5 in the morning and I'm still up at 10. So what do? I can't function when I'm tired. I can't function when I'm not eating. I'm a vegetarian. There's not the food that I need at my disposal. I don't have my apples and my salads and all of that. So I have anxiety about sleep. I have anxiety about food. So what do? I called that other therapist and I said, hey, I'm now here deployed. I didn't talk to you before I left because I talked to the other one, but this is what I'm feeling. What do you recommend? At what point do I take a sleep aid? At what point do I do A, B, and C? You have to know yourself. And you have to know when you're off your routine, when you're out of your comfort zone, and you have to know that when your pattern is changing, you need to adjust with your pattern. Especially in those cases like mine, that I wasn't in a position to say, hey, I'm a morning person. It doesn't matter. We're in a pandemic. We're in emergency setting. Everything goes. It's about safety. I can't worry about myself. Although I was tired and hungry and sleepy, I have to worry about the United States of America and those countries that we're sending people to that may have COVID-19. So the burden on my heart and soul was so heavy, but I kept my head up and I kept pressing on because as Linda said, at some point you reach back in your soul and you remember those scriptures. That he that is in me that is greater than he that is in the world. You remember, God has given me confidence. He's given me everything that I need. You remember that he made me in his image. You remember that he's Abba. He is my father. And that gives you strength to go on and to push through fear, through anxiety, through hopelessness. So as we begin to work with the passengers, people begin to travel and people begin to look sick as they came to me through the airport. So I'm saying to myself, Lord, we're on the front line. This is the gate to the United States and people are coming to us sick. You go into a position where you have to protect yourself, you try to protect that passenger, and you protect your staff. But then it becomes real. Because it's one thing if you don't get that call that Marcella talked about of hearing about somebody that's sick. It's one thing if you don't get that call where you hear about family members have died that Linda has talked about. Because it's different when it don't touch you. But when you're looking at a person in the face and then you're saying, okay, I have to call the hospital. I have to get this person transported to get into ICU. This person is sick. But this person has traveled with hundreds of other people. Now, what do? We go into protection mode and we make sure that everybody on that plane is ready. Everybody is safe. We can reach them, that everybody is okay. This is the stress of being on the front lines. It's not just me and my team that I had, but I felt that I had every plane that came in there on my shoulders. So I was stressed. I was anxious. I was worried about them. I'm worried about my family. I'm worried about my sister and my friends and my life. But I'm also worried that maybe the possibility has significantly increased of me getting COVID-19. This is when I had direct contact with someone with COVID-19, face to face. I'm in full PPE, yes. And God's grace covered me. But in that moment, I'm saying to myself, oh my Lord, help me. And I'm saying to God, cover me, oh God. Cover my people and keep us all protected. And that's what God did. But in that moment, my legs were shaking. In that moment, I'm telling my staff, everybody move back. I'll take it before you guys take it. In that moment, I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm worried, I'm in tears because this is a young person that's before me that is ill, and we have to take emergency action. So the stress and anxiety of being on the front line is unbelievable. But there's also some peace and some joy there because we all know that in this world where we are is where God has called us to be. And in that moment, as I spoke with the passengers, I said, okay, God, you've put me in this place. So you're going to bring us through this situation. So the anxiety that day decreased. And I began to work on those things that I'm sharing with you as to how I got through this. I had to have a plan for coping when I left, and that was calling my therapist and not being ashamed about it. That was expressing my concerns with my team, with my subordinates, and with those people around me. That was going into my prayer closet and praying and saying, God, this is not on me, but this is me and my team that I need you to cover and everybody else. So as I went through these phases, I had to add things that are different. And what is my point? My point is what worked for you in February and March may not be working for you in April. So you have to adjust your survival. You have to adjust what you need to do to get through this. So the therapist got me through, the support got me through, but I'm at this point where I need to work out every day. I need to make sure the chef knows that I'm a vegetarian. I went and met with the hotel chef and I said, look, I am a vegetarian. This is what I need to eat. And this man said to me, you will have food every day before you leave to go to work. I had to do that to make sure that I am hydrated, that I'm full on what I'm eating. I'm not starving because that takes me to a different place. I went in the gym and got private access to the gym so that I can be there alone in the morning. And then I also did not want anyone in there with me because, I'm protecting them from me. So I would go to the gym every day. I would go swimming every day. I would write in my journal, as Linda talked about. I would do my prayers daily. And that's what got me through the middle part. But then 54 days later, yes, I said 54 days later, I'm coming back to Atlanta, Georgia. And this is another adjustment. I've been running on adrenaline for 54 days. And now they're saying to me, you need to go home and quarantine for 14 days. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to rest. But I didn't think about the emotional health associated with returning. And all of that adrenaline that you're going on subsides, and it's just you, and you're stressed, and you're trying to adjust your sleep all over again, and you're trying to get your food in the house. By that time, my state is shut down. So I had to figure out what these rules are versus the rules where I was, and when are things open. All of that stress and anxiety came back to me. So what did I do? I came up with another plan of adjustment. Now I'm back to calling a therapist that say, look, I'm home. I'm exhausted. I'm not sleeping. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I got food in through Uber. I went to the grocery store. I got myself situated. Sometimes we just have to take that moment to get ourselves situated. We are so worried about everybody else, mama, daddy, sister, brother, the job, everybody around us. But I said, in this space, I have to get myself situated. It wasn't Dr. Powell anymore. It wasn't Commander anymore. It was just Tracy. Tracy needed to get Tracy situated. That meant mental health. That meant calling a provider once a week. That meant doing my puzzles. I planted a garden on my balcony. Every day I had to do something that was meaningful. In the mornings, I would get up and I'd do my prayer. In the evenings, when I didn't feel myself, I would call my sister Marcella, and she would pray and talk me through it. And sister, I thank you. I reached out to people because I knew that was the only way I could survive. I could not sit in this house with just Tracy and not do anything, because then I wanted to be on the front line again. I wanted to be out. I wanted to make sure everything was okay. But I had to sit and be still. After 54 days, it was Tracy's time to be still. Not titles, not names, not leadership, not associations, not the doctor, not the scientist, not the social work background, not the coach, not even the daughter, not even the sister, just Tracy. And that's what I encourage you all to do tonight. I encourage you all to reset. If you're listening to me and this makes sense to you, type reset in the comments. I want you all to reset, because now we're in another phase. The phase we're in now is the opening up phase. As we all know, they're opening everything up. It's bringing anxiety. It's bringing stress. There's so much we still don't know about COVID-19. There's so much that's uncertain. People are still dying. Testing numbers are still going up. Reset. What worked for you in March and early April may not work for you in April and May. So you have to sit and say, what is working for me? Is the music working for me? Is the prayer working for me? If not, adjust it. Adjust your prayer time. Maybe instead of praying, read your scripture first. Maybe instead of reading your scripture first, pray first. Listen to your music, as Linda said she does. Get down in yourself and find out what works for you as we go through this new stage of reopening. But we're still in our homes. It's not fully open yet. So you have time to sit and be you in the reset. Like I thought, and I was Tracy. And in that phase, I purged myself. I looked deep in myself and I worked on me. And I did a lot of praying and I did a lot of crying, because some of the things that was deep in Tracy, I didn't like. Old thought process and old thought mentalities and preconceived notions and high expectations, unbelievable expectations. I had to go through and wean all of that stuff out of my life. Because as Marcella said, COVID is making everybody be still. And I want to be still, but when I reopen, when Tracy reopens, I want to reopen as the new Tracy. And the way we do that is self-purging, reading, fasting, meditation, listening to audiobooks, reconnecting with family and friends, seeing a mental health provider if that's what you need to do. So as I close, I say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for looking at mental health as something that is important. Thank you for recognizing that we're all in this together. And thank you for evaluating where you are in your life right now. And thank you so much for saying, when I open, I'm going to be better. When I open, I'm going to be new. But for right now, I'm still here. Thank you.
Brittany, can you all hear Brittany? No, Brittany, we can't hear you. Here you go, sweetie.
Sorry, just unmuted myself. I was just saying thank you to Dr. Tracy for that really powerful testimony of her still being here, everything that she went through just being a frontline worker. So I appreciate your testimony. And I thank you so much for sharing because that was extremely powerful. Thank you also to Joseph and Linda for sharing those tips. Of course, great minds think alike, because a lot of those things that you guys shared is something that I definitely want to hop into as well. So thank you so much, Marcella, also for having me on this panel. I just think in general, mental health is something that's not always focused on. And when we are in a crisis like this, it's something that is absolutely needed so that people will know that they are not alone. And so that's the first thing that I really want to start off with, is that whoever is on, whoever is watching, you guys are not alone. We are all in this together. We are all experiencing the same trauma, and trauma is described as a distressing or disturbing event. And COVID-19, this entire coronavirus, has absolutely been a traumatic experience for all of us. This is a distressing, this is a disturbing event. And so because of that, our emotions are going to be all over the place. Our thoughts are going to be all over the place. So I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself. I didn't really introduce myself. Of course, my name is Brittany Jean Lewis. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am also the executive director of a Freeman's Place Counseling, which is a counseling agency here in New Jersey, where we serve adolescents, women, and families on an outpatient level. And then we also serve those in-home through the Children's System of Care. And so I'm going to talk to you guys from the perspective of a therapist, but also talk to you guys from the perspective as Brittany the person. So Brittany the person has actually experienced something called cumulative grief. That means that I have lost multiple important people in my life over the past 3 years. First losing my father in 2017, losing my mother in 2018, and then losing my husband in 2019, late 2019, in December. And so my experience through this COVID-19 crisis has not been navigating the everyday life of what this new normal looks like, but also it's navigating my own grief. And so I know that I'm not the only person out there that is grieving the loss of a loved one. So I have different hats, right? So not only am I a widow, but I'm also an executive director of a business, and I'm also a fellow grief supporter. Which means that I'm supporting other people that are currently grieving due to the losses that they've experienced from the coronavirus. And so ultimately, there's a lot of hats that I have on. So everything that I pour into and preach to my clients, I'm actually taking my cup and actually going under that stream to fill it up for myself. And so that's extremely important for me, is being able to fill my cup during these times. So when I am ready to fully return back to what I do, I'll be able to pour into other people, right? So I just wanted to share a couple tools and tips, really kind of related to grief, because I know that there's a lot of people that have experienced loss. And so we'll get to that in a couple. But the first thing, first tool and tips of kind of moving through this crisis, this is something that we're not going to get over, right? It's something that we're going to have to learn how to get through. And in order to get through this crisis, we need we need strategies and we need interventions that are practical. And so the first one, which is something that Linda had spoke on earlier today earlier this evening, was setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is extremely important. Basically, you're advocating for yourself and you're basically saying, here's the line in the sand. You cannot jump this line or come across this line. This is a no. No means no, and no is a complete sentence. And so in the case of this particular virus that we're experiencing, there's so much information. There is information overload. We're getting information from different news outlets. We're getting information from people that are on the front lines. We're getting information from overseas. And so sometimes that can be completely exhausting and just brain overload when you're just loading yourself up with information. So sometimes we need to set a boundary on what we're watching. We need to set a boundary on our ear gates and our eye gates and protect our ears and eyes from what we're seeing, because if we don't, then it's going to come out of the mouth gate, right? So those things can affect us and can affect our mood and can affect our feelings. It can affect our thoughts. So we have to learn how to set boundaries when it comes to social media, when it comes to news. There's this this particular meme that was kind of floating around on the internet, basically saying, if you haven't read X amount of books, if you haven't got a new trade, if you haven't taken this class, then, basically you're behind in this pandemic because you have all this time. So you should be doing X, Y, and Z. And so I just want to warn, and I just want to let everybody know that there's so many social and cultural rules that people put onto us in regards to what we should be doing during this time. And so people are all about pushing this culture of productivity. And while productivity is fine and it's great, there's some people that the only thing that they can produce at this moment is getting out of bed, getting up, brushing their teeth, and sitting on the couch. And especially if you're someone that's grieving, right? Because some of those things are out the window completely when it comes to what people think is productive, right? So I want you guys to be mindful of shaming, right? And people shaming rest, or people shaming relaxation, or people shaming you for not being productive. In regards to productivity anyway, rest is a part of productivity. You have got to learn how to rest your body, rest your mind in order for you to come back to be productive in anything that you do. So make sure that you also know, like, okay, while I'm being productive, I also need to make sure that I'm balancing and getting the rest that I need for my mind, my body, my soul, and my spirit. So stay away from the shoulds, the coulds, and the woulds. When you say things like, oh, I should be doing this, or I could be doing this, all those things are judgments. And so when we start to make judgments and put judgments on ourselves, what happens is that it makes us feel worse. Right. And so we begin to judge ourselves and we begin to internalize a whole bunch of stuff, and we are down on ourselves. And now that's lowered our mood. And now we are more open to depression. We're more open to anxiety. We're more open to isolating ourselves from loved ones and the people that we need during this time. So be careful of shaming. Set your time for social media. Set your time for watching the news. If you say, okay, you know what? I need to be in the know of this information. So I'm going to watch this particular news station for 30 minutes at 7 o'clock. And so maybe you're just like, okay, then I'll watch the news again at like 10 o'clock at night for only a half hour, right? So set boundaries of what you are consuming, so it does not consume you. The second piece, the second tools and tips is to allow yourself to grieve. So a lot of people think that grief and loss has a lot to do with actually the death of a person. But grief and loss is the loss of a relationship. It can be a loss of health. It can be, in this particular case, the loss of freedom. Right? We've lost our freedom to be able to kind of pick up and get up and go like we want to. That's upsetting, right? And that's devastating. And so we have to recognize that we are also grieving the loss of certain things, right? So making sure that you allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to get angry, allow yourself to get upset. And I'm not saying to stay there. I'm just saying to express those things, because the more we keep them pent up inside, the more they build up and cause bigger problems, especially physical problems, because stress does affect the body. So make sure that you're grieving. right? And also in regards to grieving, going back to people that have actually lost loved ones, there is something called secondary grief. So the primary grief, of course, is the loss of the actual person, but the secondary grief is actually the loss of the function and the role that the person played in your life. So for instance, yesterday I went grocery shopping, and typically my husband would come out, get the groceries out of the trunk, put everything away. And so ultimately right now I have to be the one to not only go grocery shopping, but get everything out of the trunk, bring everything into the house, put everything away, right? And so normally you would think like, okay, well, I got to do all those things. And so make sure you're also not sticking to specific rules, or that you're coming up with these irrational rules. So the irrational rule that I had was, well, I got to take the groceries out, I got to bring them in, and I got to put them away. Who says that? Who came up with that rule? So remember, in grief, rules change and rules are different, and you have to learn how to adjust and give yourself the permission to adjust. And so what I did was I said, I'm going to bring the groceries in. The groceries probably sat there for maybe like 2 hours. And then after that, I put them away. But it wasn't like it was before, whereas it would have immediately been put away. So think about the rules that you had prior to the loss of a person. If you're experiencing the loss of a husband or a close loved one that lived with you, think about that secondary grief and how hard that does hit, but also make sure that you are resetting the rules, right? And you are basically saying, okay, this has to be different, and I have to give myself permission to make this different, because if I don't give myself permission to make this different, I'm going to burn myself out in grief, because I'm going to do everything that I did post or pre this person passing away, and I'm going to completely burn out. So I want you guys to make sure that you're recognizing the secondary grief, losing the function and the role of the person that has passed away. Also just kind of giving a overview of grief and the different stages of grief. And so the first stage is denial. And basically kind of saying, this didn't happen, this is not, something that's currently going on. Then the second stage is anger. And so then just kind of like being in this angry state, whether you're angry at the person, angry at the situation, because again, grief is not all about losing someone to death. And grief after anger, there's denial, there's anger. And then after that is depression. So feeling sad and really kind of like, being at a low point and really feeling the loss of the person. After depression is something called bargaining, kind of saying, well, maybe if I did this, then that would not have happened. And maybe this person or the situation would be different if I did something different. And then finally, there's acceptance, basically kind of saying, I'm accepting that this is something that's currently happening. And so even though I kind of put those things in order, those stages of grief are not linear, right? So that means that they don't come in order. So one moment you can be in denial, and then the next moment you can be in acceptance. And then after acceptance, you can go back to anger. And after, anger, you can go back to denial or go back to bargaining. So remember that grief is something that is a journey. It's not, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's something that you will continue to move through, for a specific time until things begin to ease for you. Another thing, another tip outside of allowing yourself to grieve, something that Linda brought up too, is being kind to yourself. Again, just kind of making sure that, you are not saying negative things or, kind of putting those shoulds and coulds and woulds, on your shoulders, basically saying like, I should be doing this. I should be, spring cleaning right now. I should be cleaning the bathroom. I should be, cleaning the living room. I should be scrubbing and mopping things. I should be dusting the entire house. Take it easy on yourself. You are in a crisis and currently experiencing a trauma or a traumatic event. And so because of that, you have to be kind to yourself and allow yourself to really take a step back and really just rest. Right. And you'll get back to whatever you want to get back to, and just also pace yourself. Part of being kind to yourself is pacing yourself as well. Number 4 is taking care of your physical body. And so one thing that I always tell clients is that the 3 rule of thumbs when it comes to self-care is making sure that you are eating at least 3 times a day, making sure that you're getting at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and also making sure that you are drinking at least 8 glasses of water a day. And so I know that's so hard on people because a lot of people don't always drink a lot of water. Those are the 3 main things that kind of keep you at a baseline, right? So a baseline is basically your normal way of functioning and going throughout the day, right? And going throughout your life. So what happens is that when you say things like, oh my gosh, like I feel so, bipolar today, or I feel so anxious today, or I feel so depressed today. And just a sidebar, let's be careful about using mental illness as an adjective to describe our feelings, because that's when we can start to catastrophize, meaning that we can actually basically make a mountain out of a molehill. So for the most part, I tell people like, okay, you feel like you're anxious or you feel like you're depressed. Did you eat 3 times a day? Are you hydrated? And also, did you get sleep? And so 9 times out of 10, everybody will say, no, I didn't. I don't get good sleep. I don't, eat regularly, and I definitely don't stay hydrated. So I tell them, work on those 3 things and come back and tell me how you feel. Because if you think about it, think about when you're hungry. When you're hungry, you're moody, you're irritable. So that could look like or mirror symptoms of a mental illness, but doesn't mean that you do have a mental illness, right? Or if you are not hydrated, sometimes you get headaches, right? And so headaches, stomach aches, those kind of things are actually what's called somatic symptoms, meaning that when there's something emotionally going on, it comes out in our physical body. And so when you get headaches from hydration, it's a headache from hydration and not necessarily a headache from a particular mental illness or emotional issue that you're currently having. So be careful on kind of labeling yourself and using mental illness as adjectives, right? But really ultimately learning that I have to stay hydrated with at least 8 glasses of water a day. I have to also make sure that I eat 3 times a day. And then I also have to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep, which is definitely something that Linda pointed out earlier. And so it's important to take care of your physical body, especially in this crisis situation. There's something called cortisol, which is actually called the stress hormone. And so basically, when you are in a stressful situation, your body releases this stress hormone. And so in moderation, cortisol is actually fine. There's nothing wrong with cortisol and having it in the body. As a matter of fact, it's something that kind of helps us with our fight and flight response. So ultimately what happens is if, let's say we're camping and we see a bear, cortisol is going to kick in to tell us either we need to run away or we need to fight this bear, right? So cortisol is a good thing. It helps us to in certain emergency crisis situations. However, if we continue to be in a stressful situation over time and that acute stress becomes more chronic stress, then what happens is we actually put our bodies at risk of multiple health issues, right? So if we continue with having prolonged stress, that affects our immunity. So that affects our abilities to fight off sickness and disease. It also affects our digestive system. So when cortisol is released, what happens is actually inhibits insulin. Insulin is something that takes the glucose in our body and breaks it down. However, your body, what happens with cortisol is storing up the glucose so that we can use that energy to fight or flight. And so ultimately, there's people that will have digestive issues, that have irritable bowel syndrome. There's also people that can in particular struggle with like heart issues and heart disease. So cortisol actually narrows the arteries. And so as the cortisol is narrowing the arteries, it's actually also producing another hormone called epinephrine, which actually increases the heart rate. So when you have an increased heart rate plus your arteries narrowing over time, if that's continuing to happen, then that's going to cause heart problems and heart disease. So this is why it's so important to really catch the stress and really learn how to use the coping skills as we have talked about before, and also kind of recognizing when those physical symptoms come, what you need to do to abate those symptoms, right? And so, like I said, when there's extreme stress response and that cortisol is being released, you can feel things like fatigue, irritability, headaches, intestinal problems, weight gain, increase in blood pressure. There's so many physical issues that are related to physical issues that are related to stress. So it's absolutely important that you take care of your physical body, especially those that are grieving. Every time we hear of someone passing away, it's adding more and more and more to us. And so that's when we need to make sure that we bump up the water intake, right? We need to make sure that we are not only bumping up the hydration. We also have to make sure that we maintain, eating, taking vitamins, probiotic, vitamin C. If the normal dosage is 500, take 1,500, because you want to make sure that you're constantly building up your immune system. So that was number 4, taking care of your physical body. Number 5, another thing that Linda mentioned, identifying your triggers. What are some things that set you off? And triggers are really just something that increases an emotional response. So a trigger is not necessarily a bad thing. So if you smell someone making apple pie, it could remind you of your grandma's apple pie and spending time with your grandma. So that's a good trigger, right? But then there's also, negative triggers. So if you smell smoke, it could remind you of a time where you actually maybe your house burned down, or your neighbor's house burned down, and that's a negative trigger for you. So identify what your triggers are. Specifically, being in your home, if you're just like, I'm a person that can't sit still all day and I have to move, so it's a trigger for you not to move. So then that means, how do we manage that trigger? Well, we need to make sure that we're moving. So that means doing some exercise at home. That could mean, going outside for a walk at least twice a day. So identify the things that are negative triggers for you. So I explained a little bit of how the physical body kind of works. And so I'm going to do an illustration of our brain. Nope, you can't see my hand. Okay, so here we go. So if everybody can kind of put up, I call it the soul fist, right? So if everybody can put up the soul fist, so you have your 4 fingers, make sure your thumb is tucked under the finger, right? Your 4 fingers. So basically, this is an example of the brain, a healthy brain, right? And so this part of the brain, the 4 fingers, is actually your chief executive functioning. This is the prefrontal cortex, right? And then underneath that here, we'll say here is the spinal cord, and then here is the brain stem, right? And then we have the limbic system, which is here, your thumb. And so what happens is, when you are triggered, you do something called flip your lid. So that means that chief executive functioning goes off. The limbic system is actually what holds emotion, right? And so, and different feelings and emotion. And so within the limbic system, there's something called the amygdala. And so the amygdala is like a smoke detector. And so what happens when there's fire, when there's smoke, it goes off. So ultimately, your limbic system is going to go off and let you know we're triggered, and that's what's going to flip your lid. Right? And so prefrontal cortex is your chief executive functioning. So this means this is where you problem solve. So how do we go from being triggered to being in a state of emotional regulation? We use coping skills. We use something called mindfulness. And mindfulness is something where you're just staying in the present moment. There's no big explanation to mindfulness, but it's just learning how to stay in the present moment. And so ultimately, there's different activities that you can do to stay present. So those things can be counting from 10 to 1, counting backwards. It could be counting your breath. If you're taking a walk, it could be counting your steps. If you are just in your home and you're just feeling overwhelmed, you don't feel like moving, you can think about all the girls' names that start with the letter S. You can think about all the boys' names that start with the letter M. You can think about all the foods that start with the letter Y. Those are things that are going to get your chief executive functioning back online so that you can continue to stay emotionally regulated. So that's why it's important to know what your triggers are. Number 6, reaching out for help and staying consistently connected to people. As Linda said, we are not on our own island. We are not alone. We're not by ourselves. And so isolation creates depression for an extended period of time if you're by yourself and you don't want to be. So it's important to have a list of people. I always say, make a list of people that you can call, especially when you're feeling triggered or you're feeling upset. Make sure that you are reaching out to those supports and you're letting people know, hey, this is what I need. Because if you don't let people know what you need, they're not going to assume, and they're not mind readers. So make sure that you are identifying what your needs are. Number 7 is creating structure. So that's something that was discussed before. And so I like the concept of a check-in plan. And so a check-in plan is just basically you checking in with yourself. Families, if there's anybody here that, you live with your family, you have young children or even teenage kids in your household, it's important for you guys to check in as a family. So it's important that you ask questions like, how am I feeling? What is it that I need? Who do I need today? What am I feeling? And what do I do when my mood declines? So almost kind of like that wellness check-in that Linda was talking about, but just incorporating that for yourself and then also incorporating that for your family, and just making sure in general that your family, you are aware of their triggers, you're aware of their feelings, and that everybody is okay, and that ultimately you're okay, because of course you cannot pour from an empty cup. There's a lot that I wanted to also speak about regarding those that are sadly experiencing not only loss, but those that are experiencing abuse, whether it's children or adults, men or women. Domestic violence is something that's a huge concern during these times of quarantine, because unfortunately there are women and children and men that are in the home with their abusers. And so because of that, I want to leave a number, a hotline, so that if there's anybody that's experiencing that, they will be able to reach out to that number. And I'll also put it in the live as well. So one thing that I just want to leave with is, in this situation, especially as being a widow and then just being in this situation of COVID-19, it made me think about Mary. It made me think about Mary, Jesus' mother. And it made me think about, why did God choose Mary to carry Jesus? And it simply was because she was a virgin. She hadn't done it before, right? And so I think that's the message that I get from that, is that God is we're in this situation, and he chose us to be in this situation, but to show us something. He just wouldn't put us in a situation not to show us something. And so I believe that he's showing us that not only is he with us, just like he was with Mary, but he's also in us, just like he was in Mary, right? Literally, the Son of God that Mary was carrying. And so I think that's the message, is that God wants us to know that he is with us, and he is also in us, and that he desires for us to grow in him. Right. And so part of this time is making sure that, we are spending time with him, and that we are not forgetting that he's with us, no matter how tumultuous it is. Like, we are, in the shadow of death, right? And so what does the scripture say? Being in the shadow of death, that he would be with us, that he promises to be with us. And so he is with us, he is near. We are still here, and he's reminding us of that every day when he wakes us up in the morning and starts us on our day. So remember also in the morning time, even throughout the day, when you start your day, when you start that structure, ask God, ask him, like, what is it that you want me to do today? Structure my day for me. Tell me what you want me to do, because that's the true productivity, is, living out your purpose for God, right? And so whatever that looks like, he will tell you when to rest. He will tell you when to put things down. He will tell you when to pick things up. But that's only if we are in tune, with him. So just remember that he is with you, and that he is in you, and that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely amazing. I'm taking everybody off of if we happen to get any feedback, just put yourself back on mute. But let me say to you all, thank you so much. This has been so rich. This has been so rich. And I say to those of you who are listening on here with us tonight, I want you to go back. And I know this was over an hour, but it was over an hour worth your time. And I encourage you to please go back and listen to the replay so that you can take advantage of everything that was said here tonight. If you could sit and watch TV all day, if you can sit and look at these different ones and stuff like that, you can sit and listen to this all again, because this right here, this was rich. This was rich. So I just want you all to be encouraged with that. We want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. And if we don't have any questions, then we'll move on. But I know it was a lot of information, but it was good information. And this live is something that you can listen to tonight when it's done. Tomorrow, you can share with people, because this was valuable information. So I thank you, Linda. I thank you, Joseph. I thank you, Brittany. And I thank you, Dr. Tracy. This was amazing.
I can't hear.
And can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't
So
hear.
this was amazing. Who said they can't hear? Okay, so everybody can hear. So listen, viewers, if you are here, the first thing that I want you to do is to put in the comments, right, still here. Just to let us know that you're still here, that we still have a good connection. I want you to type still here. And for my stuff is frozen. Can you all still see me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with my laptop, but yeah, I see it on my phone, but my laptop is not letting me do anything. So what I want to do, okay, so you all can still hear me. So right, put in the comments still here. Put in the comments still here. And then if you are on here and you have a question, we want you to put the question in the comment. And there was a question that was put in, someone did send the question when they registered. And this question is, it says, how do you maintain your own mental health and still support your family? Now, I realize that that's kind of an open question, because we have to assume that support the family, when they ask that they mean encouraging their family, because it could mean financially supporting the family. But the question is, how do you maintain your own mental health and still support your family? Linda, how would you respond to that question? You have to take yourself off of mute.
Okay. I would say, like, the theme has been common throughout the night: setting boundaries, being okay to say no, knowing what your threshold is. If you are empty, you cannot pour into somebody else, especially understanding that you have to be full for you to be able to provide and support to somebody else, whether it be emotionally, financially. If you don't have it, you can't give it. If you don't have $20, you can't give someone $20. So if you're not operating in a happy place and you're overwhelmed emotionally, you can't provide that emotional support. So you have to be okay to check in with yourself first, set those boundaries before you can pour into somebody else. I know you love them, but being able to support them is also recognizing that you are not in a place to give right now.
Okay, that's awesome. Joseph, how would you respond to that question?
Well, just reiterate what everyone said. But the main thing is, what I advise, I like to keep it simple. Just take time out every day, 15, 20 minutes. Find a place, a happy place, right? And just go to that place and be. Release everything first. Process your day. Get all of that stuff out of your system, right? Because you're no good to your family and friends if you're not taking care of yourself. So you have to every day kind of, I do what I call a debrief when I leave work and I transition out of it. So, and the debrief happens actually when I get in my car, and I might put on some crazy trap music. I might do something. And what it does is it distracts me, and it takes me out of my work mode. And once I'm locked out of that, then I'm able to go be who I need to be for my family. So by the time I get home, I kind of have an unwritten rule where I say, give me 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to transition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me my space because, you know, I'm helping people all day. So I kind of need, even when I get into the house, I need that time. It's downtime where, you know, I do my little greet real quick with everybody, the kids, everybody, but I kind of need people to kind of back off for a little bit, you know, to kind of where I can become myself. Because when you're helping people all day, you're giving yourself up. So you have to kind of, you got to get that back. And you got to get back centered. So that's important.
Okay, so apparently we're having some difficulties here because my screen is frozen as well. But they're saying that they can still hear us. But Dr. Tracy, I'm not sure. Let me see.
Yeah, she looks frozen.
Yeah. Let's see here if we can try to figure this out. All right, so let me see now. Dr. Tracy, can you hear now? Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Dr. Tracy, can you hear? Okay, she can't hear. Brittany, can you hear? Just nod your head if you can hear, Brittany. Okay, so Tracy, for some reason, she's not able to hear us. All right. So what we're going to do, and hopefully by the time we this ends up, we'll be able to get Dr. Tracy back on. But what I want to do at this time, again, thank you all so much for being here tonight, sharing your. Not only did you give us some tips and information, but you shared your own personal stories, and that was such a blessing. I looked throughout the comments, and everybody was just taking advantage of the words and embracing the words that you were saying when you were sharing your own personal stories. So thank you so much for that. And to Brittany, we just wrap our arms around you, sweetheart. You are such an amazing. I know your heart is mending each and every day, but for you to continue to show up, I think we all now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Continue to show up. And I know that God is going to bless you for that. And you're so valuable. You have so much to give everyone. So while I thank everyone, we just want to give you a special virtual hug and tell you that we love you, because your experience is helping so many people. Everybody that was here, you guys are amazing. God couldn't have picked any other people. I mean, you guys are amazing. Thank you. So what we're going to do, Dr. Tracy, can you hear me now? Okay, she still, can you hear me? Okay, she will come last to her. So Brittany, go ahead and just give your contact information and let the people know how they can contact with you. And also, we want you to give out, say that telephone number that you were going to give. I know you're going to go back and put it in the comments, but say that information that you were going to give.
Sure. So the domestic violence hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. The number again is 800-799-7233. That's the domestic violence hotline. Also, in regards to those that may be thinking about suicide, or even in general, just not in a great place at home, there's also the suicide prevention hotline. So that number is 800-273-TALK, TALK. And then, of course, lastly, if you know of any children that are in home with abusers and there's abuse or neglect going on, 877-NJ-ABUSE. So those are the three numbers that I wanted to share. So in regards to getting in contact with me, you can go to my website, which is BrittanyJeanLewis.com, just my whole name, all one word. And then my email is info@BrittanyJeanLewis.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Joseph, you want to give your contact information? And wait a minute. Brittany, you were supposed to give some departing words.
Departing word? I did.
Oh, I'm trying to get Tracy straight. Okay? And I just heard you give telephone numbers, so I didn't hear you say anything else. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's
All
okay.
right, Joseph, go ahead. I told Tracy to go out and come back in. So Joseph, go ahead and give your contact information and departing words, please.
Okay. Well, you can, if you want to learn more about the 7 frames and things of that nature, you can catch me. You can find me on YouTube. I believe it's if you type in www.youtube.com/ it's The Urban Scholar. You know, so you can definitely go there. I have a lot of videos on there where I provide a lot of feedback in different areas. My email is urbanscholar@gmail.com. I can be reached there. If you want to contact me for coaching services or anything like that. I usually work with like one client at a time. So I'm definitely open to doing that. If somebody wants to sit down and they want to create their blueprint for success, you can definitely reach me at urbanscholar@gmail.com. And I just, you know, you guys were awesome. I've learned so much. I totally appreciate each and every one of you. And hopefully we can you know, stay in touch, connect, network, and you know, help each other out. Like be there for each other.
Awesome. Thank you, Joseph. Dr. Tracy, we're in the stage where we're giving our contact information and departing words.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all again for being here. Thank you, Marcelo, for putting this on. As I mentioned, I am Dr. Tracy Powell. Among many things, I am the CEO for Executive Coaching Institute for Minority Women. That acronym, Executive Coaching Institute .org is also my page, and I'm going to put everything in the comments for you. But I want to talk about transitioning to the opening, because I really believe that we all need to reopen. So as a coach, what I'm doing for the month of April is I'm doing 2 coaching sessions for $99. Coaching with me is usually $500 a session. And if you go to my website, that's what you will see. But for this, and I'm so passionate about what are we doing now in our lives and reopening, I'm offering 2 sessions for $99 for anyone who want to develop a plan and execute. That's your 2 sessions. And then I'm also an author, a coach for authors. So I'm offering my Prospective Authors package for $159. So all of this will definitely be in the comments. Reach out to me if you need assistance. Thanks for being here. We can't do this without you.
Yes. Okay. Let's go, Miss Linda. Linda.
So my name is Linda. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am also the founder of Beautifully Broken. Beautifully Broken is an organization that helps women overcome and helps them push towards emotional healing. So you can find me at my Instagram handle is beautifully_broken_LLC. And I can also be reached via Gmail at beautifullyBrokenLLC@gmail.com. You will be seeing more of me, so look out. There will be an event that will debut the Beautifully Broken in September. So please look out. You could friend me here on Facebook because I will be posting. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us right now. Give yourself the permission to become the better version of yourself. Embrace your journey. Do not compare. It's a unique journey and it's just meant for you to be traveled. So embrace the journey.
Awesome. And I think that the thing that, was it Joseph who said, don't freestyle with your mental health?
Yep.
Listen, you all, don't freestyle with your mental health. You can have a counselor, you can have a therapist, you can have a coach, but do what you need to do to make sure that you are dealing with your mental health. We want to come out of this strong. And I know that, listen to this over and over again. I can't say this to you all enough. Listen to this over and over and over and over again, because I know it is going to bless you. Well, I am Marcella D. Moore, again, the CEO of Marcella D. Moore, LLC. And we provide live and virtual events that are designed to inspire you, cultivate your gifts, and empower you to take those gifts and become a change agent in your communities. So this is one of the events. We do things like this. That's what the Still Here virtual summit was about. And we'll be back again and always bringing you some amazing people who will speak life to you and just encourage you to be your best self. So I love you all. Thank you all so much. Listen,
Love you, sis.
share
Love you.
this video. Listen to me.
Love you.
Share this, because this is valuable information. Don't forget to like my business page, Marcella D. Moore. That's the page that's showing this. And we just want, again, to just make sure that you walk away from this with some tangible things that will help you live a better life. And I pray tonight that everyone has good rest. We heard sleep, 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 sleep. We heard rest tonight, and we just really need to make that happen. So again, Linda, thank you. Joseph, Dr. Tracy, and Brittany, I thank you so much for your time tonight. You have been simply amazing. So thank you so much. Everyone have an amazing night. And again, what did I say? Don't forget to share this, because this was valuable information. Have an amazing night. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Virtual
Thank you.
hugs. Virtual hugs. Virtual hugs.